Hugh Beaumont was an actor and a director who, let's be honest, is probably best known for his role as TV dad Ward Cleaver from the popular series Leave It to Beaver back in the late 1950s into the early 1960s. However, he actually had a long and fascinating career in film and television through the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Now, before I started this channel, I'll be honest, I never really knew much about him beyond Leave It to Beaver. And in recent years, as I've been exploring old films, I've really enjoyed seeing him appear in various roles in many of the films that I've been watching. So I wanted to do a biography about him, to do a little research and learn a little bit more about his background. So in this video, I'll give an overview of his life and talk about some of the shows and films that he's known for, and also discuss some of the details of his personal life, including his time as a Methodist minister.
Well, son, you just got to learn not to let people make you that mad. Because what you do is your own responsibility, no matter why you do it. For instance, if someone cuts me off in traffic, that doesn't mean I have any right to cut them off.
That's okay for grown-ups, Dad. But boy, it's a tough rule for kids.
Eugene Hugh Beaumont was born February 16, 1909, in Lawrence, Kansas. He initially attended the University of Chattanooga before transferring to the University of Southern California, where he studied drama. His career in show business began with performances in theater, nightclubs, and on the radio in the 1930s, before he started to gain traction in Hollywood. Throughout the 1940s and early 1950s, he appeared in films across a variety of different genres, such as dramas, westerns, mysteries, and crime films. His early roles were frequently minor, uncredited ones as he was getting started, including films such as Unfinished Business in 1941 with Robert Montgomery, Flight Lieutenant in 1942 with Pat O'Brien and Glenn Ford, and The Seventh Victim with Tom Conway. From what I could see, Beaumont had over 50 uncredited roles throughout his career. However, some of his first starring roles would be that of the gumshoe detective character Michael Shayne. So some quick background here. Michael Shayne was a private investigator. He was a character from a series of novels written by Brett Holliday, and these novels were turned into a series of movies. The 1940 film Michael Shayne, Private Detective was the first in a series of 12 movies that initially starred Lloyd Nolan as the detective, and these ran up through 1942 until the series went from 20th Century Fox to PRC, where Hugh Beaumont took over the role and starred in 5 of these films. Murder Is My Business from 1946 was the first in the series of Michael Shayne films that would star Hugh Beaumont. Some of his other films that I've personally enjoyed seeing him in include the Alan Ladd thriller The Blue Dahlia from 1946, also with William Bendix. And I also enjoyed the film Apology for Murder from 1945 with Anne Savage. Yes, I realize that this one gets criticized as being a ripoff of Double Indemnity, and I can see some of the parallels, obviously, but I think Beaumont still handled the role well of the poor sap who gets roped into doing the bidding of a gorgeous but manipulative married woman. Also, the movie Bury Me Dead from 1947 with June Lockhart was also a great film, and I can't go into a lot of detail about it, but let's just say he plays a much darker character than you're probably used to seeing. And as a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fan, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that he was in a few films that were riffed as part of that series, including the Robert Lippert production Lost Continent from 1951, The Mole People from 1956, and later The Human Duplicators. They even spoofed a short, A Date with Your Family from 1950, which was an educational film that was narrated by Beaumont that offers advice on proper family dinner etiquette. While outside of cinema, as far as his personal life goes, he married Catherine Adams, and she was an actress when they met, who had actually retired from film after their 1942 marriage to raise a family of 3 children. She had actually co-starred with him in the film Blonde for a Day from 1946, which was one of the Michael Shayne detective films, and they would later divorce in 1974. Beaumont was also a devout Methodist and graduated with a master's degree in theology in 1946, and he would serve as a clergyman and lay minister at several Methodist churches in Southern California through most of his life. Even while acting, he remained active as a lay minister, occasionally preaching sermons, and he preferred to keep his ministerial work separate from his acting career, and he would often request the churches not introduce him as an actor so he could maintain focus on the spiritual message, and he would also insist in advance no autographs after the service. In the early 1950s, Beaumont moved more into television work with guest roles on series such as The Adventures of Superman, City Detective, Fireside Theater, The Lone Ranger, Medic, and The Millionaire. He had a total of 55 guest appearances and 2 TV movies, culminating with 1957's Tales of Wells Fargo. In September of 1957, Beaumont would take on a role that he would probably be the most well-remembered for, and that's becoming the father figure Ward Cleaver in the family sitcom Leave It to Beaver, a show which followed the daily life and misadventures of a suburban family. Beaumont's Ward Cleaver character was a wise, patient, and kind father, usually doling out wholesome advice and guidance to his kids. Beginning with the 3rd season, Beaumont actually began directing some of the episodes, including the series' final episode, Family Scrapbook. After Leave It to Beaver ended its run in 1963, Beaumont made occasional appearances on television as a guest star, including shows like Wagon Train, Mannix, and even Petticoat Junction. But he gradually moved out of acting and focused more on other interests like writing and sailing. As mentioned, Beaumont was a licensed Methodist minister and actively participated in church activities, and he even wrote a book called The Minister's Workshop in 1955, which provided guidance for clergy. Beaumont retired from show business in the late 1960s and set off in a new direction as a Christmas tree farmer in Minnesota. The business involved growing trees in Minnesota and shipping them back to California to sell. From what I read, Beaumont actually co-owned the farm with a former Marlboro man. In the early 1970s, he sold a share of the 40-acre farm to a local tree farmer who continued the business. After suffering a stroke in 1972, he was forced to slow down, and he passed away on May 14, 1982, while visiting his son in Munich, Germany, at the age of 73 due to a heart attack. Now, my own thoughts on Hugh Beaumont is that he always just strikes me as an honest, believable character in whatever he happens to be in, even when whoever he's playing happens to be someone less than noble or heroic. And while many will remember him as Ward Cleaver, what really drew me to him as an actor are more of his lesser-known crime film roles, namely that of private investigator Michael Shayne when he took on that series of films. And while I still remain a huge fan of Lloyd Nolan, when he played the role for 7 of those films, he presented that role more in a sillier, relaxed manner, one cracking jokes and getting into trouble, while Beaumont's take on the character just had more of a cool, no-nonsense style, a little more serious, and also a relatable tough guy, but maybe just a shade darker. Outside of the Michael Shayne character, I do think that some of his underrated films need more attention because he really is a great actor. So with my channel, I do hope to make an effort to watch more of his films and offer reviews of them as I move forward. He's been in about 64 films. Maybe I'll get to all of them. Who knows? Well, anyhow, to wrap up this quick biography, Hugh Beaumont was a well-known American actor, best known for his role as the kind and patient Ward Cleaver from the series Leave It to Beaver. But beyond that, his career also spanned dozens of crime films and B-movies through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, in numerous guest roles on television shows. Beyond Hollywood, Beaumont was also a devout Methodist pastor who saw acting as both a profession and a ministry, often balancing his faith with his film and television work. Hugh Beaumont left behind a legacy as both a beloved TV dad and as a man of faith.